I want to give the remaining time to our distinguished speaker this morning, who I'm very privileged to introduce. Tony Hall is a former member of Congress, former ambassador to United Nations food agencies and agriculture. He was nominated 3 times for the Nobel Peace Prize. He currently serves as the Executive Director of the Alliance to End Hunger, which engages diverse institutions around the country and around the world in building public and political will to end hunger at home and abroad. Prior to his diplomatic service in Rome, Ambassador Hall represented the 3rd District of Ohio in the U.S. Congress for almost 24 years. He was the longest serving member in history for that district. During his tenure and his time there, he was chairman of the House Select Committee on Hunger, the Democratic Caucus Task Force on Hunger. He founded the Congressional Friends of Human Rights Monitors, authorized legislation that supported food aid, child survival, basic education, primary health care, microenterprise, and development assistance for the world's poorest countries. Ambassador Hall also founded and chaired the Congressional Hunger Center. He's received numerous awards and honorary degrees from institutions around our country. He's also authored the book, Changing the Face of Hunger, which is an excellent and inspiring read. I commend it to you if you haven't read it. But also he's a man of faith, a deep man of faith. In response to the abolishment of the Select Committee on Hunger in April 1993, he went on a fast for 22 days to draw attention to the needs of hungry people around the world, yielding tremendous results that were far beyond any piece of legislation could possibly achieve. And then, as many of you may know here in this room, that just this past spring, Tony once again called on people of faith and conscience to join him in a fast to bring attention to the poorest of the poor around the world. And over the course of a month, 36,000 Americans formally signed up to join him in that fast. 28 members of Congress joined in the fast as well. There's extensive media coverage that was brought to bear on it. And once again, the moral consciousness of our nation was pricked to grapple with the plight of the poor amidst our own national challenges and budgetary priorities that we're having to grapple with. I was one of those 36,000 people who joined Tony in this fast, and I think some of you were among that group as well. And it was a powerful experience. As we may know, when we give ourselves to prayer and fasting, it changes us fundamentally before it changes systems and the minds and people around us. I don't know. So we did that. We both we engaged in this sustained fast, and both Tony and I were getting pretty skinny, I think, and we thought we looked fabulous, I think. But our wives, I think, were glad to see us put on a little more meat on our bones. So, but it was a tremendous journey. Tony has personally inspired me. He has personally informed my faith, my pastorate, my politics, and my advocacy work for over the past 20 years. And he's a personal hero of mine, and I know he's a personal hero of many of you. So please join me in a warm welcome for a wonderful man of God and a tremendous leader in our nation and internationally, Tony Hall.
Thank you, Lucas, and thank you so much for inviting me here today. And I just appreciate you so much. I appreciate you, not only your work in hunger, but just your character and your friendship and everything about you. I'll never forget the first time I spoke to a meeting of Christians. I hadn't been in Congress that long. Matter of fact, I was a new freshman member. Matter of fact, I had to go to the Congress of the United States to find God. I know that sounds funny, but that really is the truth. And shortly thereafter, I was at a group like this, and it was a mixed group, and a friend got up and he introduced me, and he was so excited. He said, "I want to introduce Tony Hall. He's a U.S. congressman and a Christian." And there was some laughing and giggling, and an older man down front, he couldn't take it much longer, and he was just kind of shuffling in his chair, and he finally hollered up, he said, "Make up your mind, buddy, you can't be both." And that's the way my Christian life started off. I would never choose, though, between being a congressman and being a Christian. I actually couldn't be one without the other. My work to help hungry people when I was in Congress and as an ambassador was motivated by my belief in Jesus and my desire to follow his teachings. And I wouldn't be able to do this work without my faith. And my faith is made deeper and stronger by my work. And this is something that I know that you understand, and you understand it deeply. In the New and the Old Testaments, there's over 2,500 verses that deal with the issues that you and I deal with daily, with the sick and the hurting, and the orphans and the widows and the aliens and the hungry and the hurting. In Luke chapter 3 it says, "Let the man with 2 tunics share with him who has none, and let him who has food do likewise." And in Proverbs, there's a couple great verses that I really like. And I'll paraphrase what they say, but one is in 14, the other one's in 19. It says that when you help the poor, God says, when you help the poor, you honor me. And it also says in 19, when you are gracious to the poor, you lend to me. It's very interesting that God doesn't say that many places in the Bible, that if you do something like this, if you do something for the poor, you lend to me and you honor me. That's pretty amazing. Our faith calls on us to be unwavering advocates for the poor, to speak out, not in a political sense, in choosing sides, but to speak out for the hurting, for the less fortunate, and to feed the hungry, and to speak out for the hurting. This is not a small or easy task, because today, 25,000 people will die in this world. And 25,000 died yesterday, 25,000 will die tomorrow, and that they will die of hunger, and they will die of hunger-related deaths. And at least 40% of the people in the world today live on $2 a day. And at least 1 billion people right now are starving. A month ago, or a little bit over a month ago, 2 months ago, I'm sorry, I was in northeast Kenya, up near Somalia, where 29,000 children had died in less than 60 days as a result of that famine. The population of our planet is now 7 billion. And meanwhile, farmers in Africa, they are not producing any more food today than they did 30 years ago. And this raises very real questions about how we will feed the world in 2050. And the political climate in the country and around the world is characterized by fear and anger. And compromise has become a dirty word. Politicians seem more focused on doing what will get them reelected, not doing what is right, even if it is unpopular. It's easy to get discouraged, to say that the problem is too big, and we can't make a difference. And there was a time in life when I felt this way myself. 20 years ago, I visited Mother Teresa in Calcutta. I had the chance to be with her a number of times, and the first time I was with her was in Calcutta, and she took me to the poorest section in the city, and I, at the time, was the chairman of the subcommittee on the Select Committee on Hunger, on International Hunger, and as we were walking in the poorest section of Calcutta, the staggering number of people living on the street, people suffering at this time was overwhelming. I felt helpless. I turned to Mother Teresa and I said, how can I possibly make a difference in the world? I'm not even sure I can handle this block. And she didn't say anything to me. She turned away and she went, and there was a man that was lying in the street. He looked practically dead. And she got some men to pick him up, and they took him home, and she began to care for him and love him and wash him off and hug him. She hugged and loved and everybody. And she came back to me later in the afternoon and she said, you need to do the thing that's in front of you. And I think Mother Teresa hit the nail on the head. She meant, you know, we can't all go to Calcutta like I could. She said, do the thing that's in front of you. Whether you live in Boise, Idaho, or Baltimore, Maryland, or Dayton, Ohio, do the thing that's in front of you. So what does that mean for you? What does that mean? What can you do? And there are very practical things you can do. To begin with, you can be informed, and you can be involved like you are. And critical decisions are being made this week in Congress that will impact millions of hungry people around the world. Over the next few months, there will be important debates on the future of critical programs that help hungry people in this country. The legislative process is complicated and it's tedious, and there are many organizations who are doing a great job of explaining what's happening on Capitol Hill. Many of them are in this room. And once you are informed, then you can act. Contact your member of Congress. As a former member of Congress, I can tell you that we do listen to our constituents. Your phone calls and your letters, and especially your visits, they make a big difference. I know a lot of people don't think that, but there's one thing that really gets the attention of congressmen and senators is people in their district, when you visit them, and when you ask them, and when you see them, and when you look into their eyes, and when you do that repeatedly every year, that makes a difference. It made a difference with me. Prayer and fasting are also powerful tools for advocacy. This spring, as Lucas was telling you about, I became so frustrated by what was happening in Congress that I stopped eating and started fasting and asked many people in the country, many of your organizations to join us in a fast. It was based on Isaiah 58. I was so tired and so frustrated with my colleagues that the people that we represent, they don't have a voice. We are their voice. These people, they don't vote. They don't have lobbyists. They don't have PACs. They don't have money. These 29,000 children that died in Somalia, you think that they have somebody in Congress worrying about them? The senior citizens that I met recently in Appalachia, Ohio, who live on Social Security, both in their late 70s. That's all they have, their Social Security. She had cancer. And everything they had was going for her pharmaceuticals to pay for her cancer. When I met them, they were stretching a can of tomato soup for 2 weeks. Do you think somebody is listening to them in Congress? No. Your phone calls and your letters, your action, your commitment, they do make a difference. You are their voice. You're the only voice. So I decided to stop eating, and I based it on Isaiah 58, and along with a lot of other people from Bread for the World and Sojourners and a whole bunch of Christian organizations, National Evangelical Associations, Catholic bishops, you name it, World Vision. I better not name names because I'll forget. But there were well over 40,000 people. And those are 40,000 people that we know that registered. I don't know how many other people did that we don't know about. And it was powerful, it was strong, and it worked. Hunger Fast brought together a large and diverse coalition of partners. Meals on Wheels, the One Campaign, World Vision, MoveOn.org, Christian, Jewish, and Muslim organizations all came together for fasting, prayer, and personal sacrifice. And during the course of our campaign, not only 40,000 Americans, but 28 members of Congress committed to fasting and prayer. In the end, our fast helped soften the blow of proposed cuts in the 2011 budget. Internationally, Republicans have proposed cutting McGovern Dole, which is a feeding program that benefits 15 million poor and hungry people, by 50%. And in the end, they only cut it by 17%. They barely touched other important development programs. A decision that literally saved at least 70,000 lives. One fast did that. All we did, we stopped eating. The power of fasting and praying. Domestically, we didn't fare as well, underscoring the importance of those debates moving forward. In programs benefiting poor kids and their mothers, WIC, they saw some cuts, about a 7% reduction. So the fight continues, and we have a ways to go. Fiscal responsibility is difficult, and it requires tough choices. But it should never mean picking our children last or forgetting our moral obligation to the world's most vulnerable. As a member of Congress, there are so many issues that clamor for our attention. And it's easy for hunger to be left behind. And they don't have much of a voice. We have a responsibility to put things first. And the time for us to urge our neighbors and families and business leaders, the President, the Congress, businesses, our neighbors, our friends, to take strong action, to tend to the needs of the least of these, is now. And you know, somebody once asked Mother Teresa, don't you think that what you do is a drop in the bucket? And she said, no. What I do is a drop in the ocean. If I didn't do it, there'd be one less drop. You can imagine what the world would feel like if we all did that one drop. You are doing your drop. I just want to conclude my remarks by saying thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your passion. You probably don't get a lot of thanks, but I thank you. I'm glad to associate myself with you and the work that your organizations that you do, because it's wonderful work. And it's what I like to do, and I know that when you go to bed at night, at least I know a lot of the nights you say, it's been a pretty good day. We did some good work today. Thank you, and God bless you.